We're going to start out with a little bit of guard retention, and then we're going to move into a little bit of escaping from bad spots. So we're going to be down on our back in a supine position, and we're going to try to have our knees, just don't grab this foot please, we're going to have our knees pulled towards our chest like so. And our partner is going to start to try to move towards one side of our body, which makes sense. And our job is going to be to always try and track him with our leg, putting our foot on him so we can make connection, and then square ourselves back up to him. Okay, super simple stuff. But what's going to happen is he's going to start to go on you, and you're going to be in a position where your inside leg can't start to track him because he's controlling. And then our outside leg is going to do the job where it's going to start to track him and come up and maybe put our foot on his shoulder. Maybe if his foot is in, if his hand's in our hip, we can start to loop our foot inside in what we call a lasso type position. Anytime I can make this type of frame, I can now square myself back up and my feet are in front. So the general rule is keep our feet between us and our opponent, and we're probably in a good spot. Obviously, if he gets around the side here and my feet are maybe bridging on the mat or doing things like this is a good way to get your guard past. So I want to try and teach you guys to keep your knees tight. And if you need to actually physically grab, that's okay. If you need to grab your own knees, we call it self-framing. But I will use my hands for framing on him if he's starting to come down and get into a pinning position. Right? If you let him get into a pinning position and you're doing other things with your hands, now you're getting yourself into trouble. So we pull our knees in. If I can reach out and meet him, that's great. If my bottom foot can come in, whether it's to the hip or to the chest, great. If I feel like it can't do any work, I'm going to take my outside leg, putting it on the shoulder, or my outside leg and throwing it in. And then from here, I'm going to start to move myself back into a guard position. So super simple. The strategy is the base of your foot is kind of always pointing at your opponent. So if the base of my feet are over here, this is good for Jake. And I always want to be trying to bring them back towards him and bringing our feet back to the inside position. Let's get a partner, we'll warm up with this. Guard retention is very important. It sucks being just stuck in bad positions. So if you can keep someone in front of your legs, life's pretty good. Now let's look at this idea. Rather than just using, this is something I see like kids and beginners do a lot of, where they just use one or the other, though. They just use their hands, normally for pushing and pulling, or they just use their legs spazzing around, but they don't really use them together. So I want you guys to think about the idea that really your feet are just kind of like another set of arms and hands if you can. And the guys who are the best guard players are the guys who have very flexible hips and they can move their feet around. Obviously you can't physically grip with your feet, but you can make a lot of really useful frames with your feet. And whenever you've got frames, it's pretty tough for him to work. And we use our hands at the same time. So our feet and our hands are working together. So now I don't want him to be able to come in here and camp and have these grips that he had before. As soon as he starts to come in to pass my guard, I'm going to be stripping and making control of one or both his hands. Normally 2-on-1 is a good way to do this. He can still start to try and move to angles, that's perfectly fine, but this is so much easier now for us to put feet on it. So if Jake starts to walk towards, around my guard more and more and more, I've got a foot on him and I can always come back in here. Versus allowing him to do good controlling of the legs, this is where like things get more difficult. Okay, so now we're just gonna do this. He's gonna come in and we're just gonna strip grips. And then we're just gonna look at using our feet, whether it's my inside leg as Jake starts to go, whether it's to the hip, whether it's on the chest, whether it's in the armpit, or if we go back, or if he comes in and I get this leg and he starts to go, I can start to use my top leg, whether it's to throw back inside here, putting feet on the shoulders, but I'm just squaring myself back up and then we can make connection. So all we're adding now is the idea that I get hold of one of his hands, and as he tries to go, I can always now start to work using hands and feet together. Let's give it a go. So I'm just giving you incremental little steps to work on there. And some of you already have, reasonable guard retention, but everyone thinks they got good guard retention until you go against a really good passer, and then you start to realize that you could always improve on it. So let's just always strip grips, be trying to work into frames. Now sometimes he moves at a range where there's no real gripping and he just tries to start to bury on you and starts to get inside here. They use speed-based angular advantage and then starts to drive in to get chest to chest. We might do it on this side because it'll be a bit. What I want you to try to do, especially for those of you that are more flexible, as long as this top foot can come over and track just inside here, no matter how much he goes to north-south here as he comes in, my foot will always drag me into a position where I can keep a frame of some type. And he's got to be very careful about going into triangles, and I can always spin myself back around. Okay, so my partner gets out to an angular advantage. I can't reach him yet. If I leave my feet facing this way, he can bury, and now I'm relying on elbows and knees. So what we're going to start to try and do is take this top leg over and just put it over here in the front of his chest. So as he starts to walk, he will just literally drag you in a circle, invert you up in your shoulders, and we're going to come around. So that's what we're going to work on. So as he starts to go, I'm just going to throw this towards him here. And this is actually really hard to deal with. And the people who have very flexible hips, Dave's very good at this. Diego Pato, there's a bunch of good guard players who'd like to do this type of thing. As long as you can take this foot and just keep it there in front of their chest, I'm not allowing him to crush it down and then pass back behind me. Just keep that in mind. So as Jake comes around here, I'm not going so excessive that I do this and then he can flank me. I'm keeping it just up here in his chest. So as he goes here, I kind of hook it in here and create tension. And it's really hard for him to actually do a whole lot. So let's give this a go. Let's not spend our whole day doing guard retention. There's going to be a time where, even though you did a great job, he managed to get past your legs, he gets in here and goes into pinning situations. So we're like this. So he's come down here, he's got chest to chest, and he's got some working grips on us like so. We're gonna fight very hard to bring our hand back inside here like this. So we're gonna bring a cross frame inside, we're gonna bring our second frame in, and we're gonna start to look at trying to take our upper body away like this. Now, what I'm trying to do is get to a point where I can split his grip. So I'm trying to come in here and split the grip away and start to get on my side. That's what I want to do here. If you can do this before he gets the grip, great. So think about it. He hasn't come in, pinned you for 30 seconds and then gone. We're not doing a pin where he's completely consolidated. The idea is that he jumped past the guard. He's come in here to get a pin. I've made frames. We're moving, and I get onto my side here like this. So now I've got a thumb post in the armpit like this. And we're going to start to prop up. So I'm going to start to arch away, pushing him away. Now remember, if I can bring my knees back in, I will. He's going to be probably keeping his legs in tight so that I can't do that. And all we're going to look at trying to do here is trying to prop up onto our side like this. Now we need to be careful because when I prop to here, he can try to go near side underhook and then start to flatten me and wrestle me back down. So what we're going to do, as we prop up here, as I switch to a prop, I'm going to just post inside his hand here. So when he tries to work that, it's very difficult. And now I'm going to hip escape back out and I'm going to sit myself back into a guard. So this was kind of a variation of an old escape Marcelo used to do a lot. Marcelo, before people had come in and pin him, would start to go here, start to make his way up here and then start to move out, right? And it's actually surprisingly difficult for the man on top when I'm controlling this far arm. We're doing the same sort of thing, but he's put his pin down here and we're coming up, we're breaking this free. I prop. If I prop and I don't deal with his arm, he goes body lock or underhook, whatever. So from here, as I start to prop up to an elbow, I'd go down the arm at least to the bicep, maybe even to the wrist. All right, it's hard for him to throw darces and things from here. It's, you know, he'd have to do some good work, plus you've got his wrist. We hip escape out, and now I'm facing back towards him and we can go back into work. All right, let's give it a go. So the idea behind that particular escape was anytime you can frame up inside here, this is pretty good. So we looked at the idea of turning on our side and then starting to prop. You don't always have to do that. If you can frame here and hip escape and he doesn't follow you well enough, you can always then just bring your feet back inside. So just keep that in mind. But against someone better, they're probably going to be running this down. You're going to be in a position like this, maybe just square hips and come across the body a bit more. Probably something like this. And then you might find that you just can't hip out. And then we're having to come up and do the things that we just looked at, okay? So just understand how that's likely to go down. Now, if we're having a real hard time and we're not getting anywhere with this, we can also elbow pass this across the body. So what we can start to do is we take a prop here on the back of his tricep, we tuck our head and we bring it around and we start to shove him out this direction. And we actually point our legs away from him and then we start to come up and we prop up to an elbow this way. This is pretty hard to deal with if you're the man on top. If he doesn't react really well, I'm definitely getting out of here. So all I'm going to do from here, I'm just pushing him away and then I'm going to just do a power hip escape effectively. I'm going to come up onto my hip, onto my shoulder, and as he tries to run me down, I'm just going to bring my hips back inside and now I'm back to a guard position. And again, this is a Marcelo Garcia special, this one. So I'm here, I pass it around the head and then I use a slight pendulum and a prop and I start to come up here. Now, if I could just bring my knee in, great, but normally he's trying to block this. So you actually have to hip escape. So as he starts to come up, back up to pin me, I hip escape, bringing my knee back inside, and then I'm back into a guard position. Okay, so really make sure you get right up on your shoulder when you do that escape. So one more time. Right here, he hasn't consolidated, I've gone around the head, I start to prop, and then my knee comes back in. Let's give it a go. That man's come around here into side control, and he's joined his hands up and we're in a position like this. What we're going to do this time is a more traditional escape. He's pinned everything down, we can't get anything moving. So we're going to frame this near side hip, and we're just going to work with our head on the outside here initially. We're going to take our feet, outside foot in the mat, and our near side knee in his hip, and we're just going to put our toes above the height of our knee. So this would be below, this would be above, and then I'm just going to use incremental hip escapes framing his hip until I can slip my knee inside and connect it to my own elbow. So now I've got a variation of side guard going here. So things are looking all right. From here I can come off the hip, and I'm going to start to pummel my hand on the inside here, and then I'm just going to lock my hands and start to arch away until I break his grip. And then we're going to immediately go inside the bicep so that my shin can come in front of his shoulder and my outside leg can come up, and I can connect my heel here to my own knee. And now we put him into a clamp guard. Okay, so clamp guard can be difficult to get into. Let's say Jake was just outside passing out here. Like, I'm not going to put him in a clamp guard. But clamp guard works well when someone pressures in, or in this case, he was doing the ultimate version of pressuring in. He was pinning side control, and I managed to build back out of here and get myself back to a position where I could now put him in a clamp guard. So from here, I'm going to pull everything in. So I'm collar tying, I'm bicep tying, but my hand's wrapped around the outside, and I come up to here like this. And I'm just trying to put all my weight out this direction versus letting him square me back up to the ceiling and split it all apart. So we end up like this. Small detail, when we go to strip the legs apart, you can also bolster putting your foot on top of your other foot. When you start to join up here to break, this will give you a little bit of a bar across the hips, and then we start to come inside here. Now what we're going to do today, we're not going to go through a whole clamp guard series. What we're going to do today is arch our head away, pinching our elbow back here, controlling his elbow, pushing his head so we can free our foot and bringing our foot in front of the head and locking our legs like this. Now we're going to turn our knees out and our feet in, right? So we're going towards an omoplata here. Now what I don't want is the arm to go straight and wrap back around the front of the body. This will get a bit messy. So what I want is to keep his wrist pinned in here. So I'm going to have my feet pointing in, my knees pointing out, the wrist in, and I'm going to start to come around here looking to control the body. Now the omoplata doesn't always result in submissions, but it does result in a lot of sweeps. So remember, if I turn my feet outwards and my knees in, it's easier for Jake to posture to the ceiling, and you start to get stacked. If I can keep my feet more towards the inside, stomping down, it's a little harder for him to posture up. So I want you to think about keeping his head down, and then we're going to work from this position here. So we're escaping the side control position where he's pinned us really well. Oh, everything's kind of stuck on the outside. I bring towards the inside, I bring my knee into here, I bolster my feet up. I can bring a cross frame in, or I can bring this in. I'll leave it up to you. From here we go to the clamp guard. I'm going to push the head away, and I'm going to start to get to a point where I bring my foot around the head like so. I'm not letting this arm straighten so I can control the wrist if need be, and I'm keeping my knees to the outside, my feet to the inside, and then we're going to operate from here. Let's give it a go. Go from the omoplata. Now, the reason I don't teach omoplata a lot is because you really don't see it as a submission achieved at the highest level all that often. You see plenty of people try to throw into them maybe, and it's just a crazy scramble. So I think what we generally think is the main use of an omoplata is for sweeping, because if he doesn't do good defense, you can submit him. It's a very powerful shoulder lock. The idea is that as I start to sit up and try to get hold of him, because what I want to do, if I can sit up here and then get to a position where I start to get a grip, a 10-finger grip here like this, I can start to submit this guy. I can start to put like severe shoulder pressure through him. So what you start to get is as you start to try and sit up on guys and they're in positions like this, is that they start to hit a shoulder roll. And all we're going to do is this. As he starts to shoulder roll, we're just going to look at allowing everything to go through. Now what I don't want is to get put where I let my arm fall between his legs and I get put back in omoplata. This kind of sucks. So there's a couple of ways we can go about it. If you had the tight waist, as we start to come up here, I just lean over the top of him and let his legs go by, and then we just come up into a top pin. So we're just using it for sweeping. So the basic rule here is you're probably going to get a sweep more than a submission. It doesn't mean the move sucks. If you can get a sweep, this is cool. The other thing is don't reach between legs, because now when he hits rolls, we both have the same thing, and this just gets messy. So we're here like so, we're reaching around either like so, or if I'd managed to start to build height and get up a little higher here, I might be around a tight waist. We know that if he allows me to get all the way to a seatbelt grip, he's in trouble. So he's probably likely to roll. And as he rolls, I'm just gonna face everything out, and then I'm just gonna bring my elbow back on the inside, and then we're just gonna go into a pin in side control. Okay, so that's gonna be it. We're not gonna go right down omoplatas today. But out of this defensive position, you can get into this clamp guard. Out of clamp guard, it's pretty easy to get an omoplata. And out of there, it's not that crazy to get a sweep. So let's use that, and then we'll roll. Let's go.